Most NFL expansion teams spend years trying to become relevant. The Carolina Panthers almost rewrote NFL history before they were even old enough to attend elementary school. Just 2 seasons after taking the field for the first time, they were playing in the NFC Championship Game. Since then, the Panthers have produced Hall of Famers, MVPs, iconic moments, and some of the most painful losses in NFL history. They've come within reach of a championship more than once. But if you ask Panthers fans what truly defines this franchise, many won't start with a player, a coach, or even a Super Bowl run. They'll give you 2 words: keep pounding. Those words have survived winning seasons, losing seasons, superstar quarterbacks, ownership changes, and heartbreaking defeats. Because the story of the Carolina Panthers isn't really about a championship. It's about resilience. And it starts with a franchise that wasn't supposed to rise this quickly. This is inside the franchise of the Carolina Panthers. In the early 1990s, the NFL was looking to expand. Most people assumed the league would choose a larger, more established football market. Instead, former Baltimore Colts player Jerry Richardson had a different vision. He believed North Carolina and South Carolina could unite behind a single franchise. After years of campaigning, that vision became reality. On October 26, 1993, the NFL awarded Carolina its 29th franchise. Richardson hired Hall of Fame executive Bill Polian to build the organization from scratch. It turned out to be a brilliant decision. The Panthers began play in 1995. Expansion teams are supposed to struggle. They're supposed to spend years rebuilding. The Panthers ignored the script. Led by head coach Dom Capers and veterans like Sam Mills and Kevin Green, Carolina finished 12-4 in only its 2nd season. Then came one of the most surprising playoff runs in NFL history. The Panthers defeated the defending Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys and advanced to the NFC Championship Game. A franchise that barely existed was suddenly one of the NFL's best teams. The Panthers had arrived. But the person who would ultimately define the franchise wasn't a quarterback. It wasn't an owner, and it wasn't a coach. It was a linebacker. Sam Mills spent most of his football life proving people wrong. At just 5'9", many NFL teams believed he was too small to succeed. Again and again, he was overlooked. Again and again, he kept fighting. Eventually, Mills became a star with the New Orleans Saints and one of the most respected leaders in football. When he joined the Panthers, he brought that same mentality with him. Then in 2003, everything changed. Mills was diagnosed with colon cancer. As Carolina prepared for a playoff game later that season, he gathered the team and delivered a speech players would never forget. He told them that cancer had done everything it could to stop him, and yet he was still standing. Then he challenged the Panthers to do the same. Keep pounding. The message immediately resonated, not because it was clever, because it was real. The Panthers carried that mindset throughout a magical season. Years later, players still talk about that speech. Fans still wear the phrase. The organization built its culture around it. When Mills passed away in 2005, the Panthers lost one of their greatest leaders, but his message never left. Today, a statue of Mills stands outside Bank of America Stadium. The keep pounding drum remains one of the NFL's most recognizable traditions. And in 2022, Mills became the first Carolina Panther inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. For Panthers fans, keep pounding isn't a slogan. It's the heartbeat of the franchise. And nowhere was that heartbeat stronger than in 2003. The 2003 Panthers weren't supposed to reach the Super Bowl. Most analysts expected Carolina to be average. Instead, they became unforgettable. Led by head coach John Fox and quarterback Jake Delhomme, the Panthers developed a habit of winning close games. Every week seemed to come down to the final moment. Eventually, fans gave them a nickname, the Cardiac Cats. Then came the playoffs. In the divisional round against the St. Louis Rams, Carolina found itself in a double overtime thriller. What happened next became Panthers folklore. Steve Smith Sr. sprinted downfield. Jake Delhomme launched the football. Touchdown. Game over. The play became known simply as X-Clown. Even today, Panthers fans can say those 2 words and instantly know the moment. The Panthers rode that momentum all the way to Super Bowl 38 against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. The game became an instant classic. Carolina traded punches with the Patriots for 4 quarters. Late in the game, it felt like the Panthers might actually pull it off. Instead, New England escaped with a 32-29 victory on a last-second field goal. The championship dream was over. But Carolina had proven something. The Panthers belonged. And when they returned to the NFC Championship Game after the 2005 season, led by Steve Smith's historic Triple Crown receiving campaign, they showed the 2003 run was no accident. Before Cam Newton arrived, two players helped define Panthers football: Steve Smith Sr. and Julius Peppers. Smith played every snap with a chip on his shoulder. Drafted in the 3rd round and constantly told he was too small, he became one of the most feared receivers in football. He talked trash. He backed it up. And when the biggest moments arrived, he usually delivered. By the time his Panthers career ended, he held franchise records for receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. Then there was Julius Peppers. The North Carolina native looked like he had been created in a football laboratory. Fast, powerful, explosive. For more than a decade, Peppers terrorized quarterbacks and became one of the greatest defensive players of his era. Together, Smith and Peppers helped establish the identity of Panthers football: tough, physical, fearless. But in 2011, the franchise found a player who would take Carolina to another level. When the Panthers selected Cam Newton with the 1st overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, not everyone was convinced. Some questioned whether his success at Auburn would translate to the NFL. Cam answered immediately. In his very first game, he threw for 422 yards and set an NFL rookie record. Almost overnight, the Panthers became one of football's most entertaining teams. Newton wasn't just a quarterback. He was a phenomenon. His combination of size, speed, power, and athleticism was unlike anything most fans had ever seen. And his personality made him impossible to ignore. Whether people loved him or criticized him, everyone was watching. Around Newton, another core emerged. Luke Kuechly became the leader of the defense. Greg Olsen became one of the league's best tight ends. Thomas Davis became the emotional leader of the locker room. And head coach Ron Rivera slowly transformed Carolina into a contender. Then came 2015, the greatest season in franchise history. Everything worked in 2015. Cam Newton played with confidence that bordered on swagger. Luke Kuechly dominated games with his instincts and intelligence. Josh Norman enjoyed the best season of his career and became a first-team All-Pro. The Panthers kept winning. Then they kept winning some more. The celebrations became part of the story. The dancing, the smiles, the energy. This team looked like it was having more fun than anyone else in football, and nobody could stop them. Carolina finished 15-1. Cam Newton won NFL MVP. The Panthers stormed through the playoffs and crushed the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC Championship Game, one win away from history. Even Thomas Davis embodied the keep pounding mentality. After breaking his arm in the NFC Championship Game, he somehow returned in time to play in the Super Bowl. For Panthers fans, it felt like destiny. Then came Super Bowl 50. The Denver Broncos defense disrupted Carolina from the start. The Panthers never found their rhythm. The dream season ended with a 24-10 loss. For many Panthers fans, it remains the most painful day in franchise history. Not because Carolina lost, but because that team felt destined to win it all. The years that followed brought change. Cam Newton battled injuries. Ron Rivera departed. In 2018, David Tepper purchased the franchise and promised a new era. Then came another emotional moment. In 2020, Luke Kuechly unexpectedly retired at just 28 years old. One of the greatest players in franchise history was suddenly gone. For many fans, it felt like the end of an era. The Panthers entered a period of transition. Coaches changed. Quarterbacks changed. The search for a new identity began. Today, the Panthers are still chasing the championship that has eluded them since 1995. Now that responsibility belongs largely to Bryce Young and a new generation of players. The road hasn't been easy, but Panthers fans understand that better than most, because resilience has always been part of this franchise. They believed when Carolina was an expansion team. They believed after 2 Super Bowl losses, and they still believe today. That belief traces back to Sam Mills, to Steve Smith, to Julius Peppers, to Luke Kuechly, to Cam Newton. Different generations, the same message: keep pounding. Because more than 30 years after the Panthers were born, those 2 words remain the heartbeat of Carolina football. And maybe someday they'll carry Carolina all the way to a Lombardi trophy. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out our previous episode on Kansas Jayhawks basketball, where we explored one of the greatest programs in sports history. And to the founding members, every great franchise has its originals. Thank you for being ours. I'll see you in the next chapter of Inside the Franchise.